Hi, I'm Al.
Hi, I'm Jayné.
And we are back for another installment of our time of remembering people that we lost in 2020. And today we're going to talk about more change makers. You're going to hear about B. Smith, Barbara Harris, Phyllis George, Paul Sarbanes, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and one person you may not have heard of before. So stay tuned and stay with us on All Roads Lead To with Al and Jayné. This is All Roads Lead To with Al and Jayné.
The place where we share and talk about the people, places, and passions
that have impacted us on the road of life. Thanks for staying with us as we continue to talk about change makers and people who started on the journey with us in 2020 but did not finish the journey with us in 2020, who have made such an impact on our lives, but really on the world in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think back to my time growing up in I kind of remember being referred to as like the DC, Maryland area, which is now more the DMV. Mm-hmm. But there were people like Barbara Mikulski and Elijah Cummings and, so many, I felt like trailblazing politicians. And one that I remember kind of arising and going from like one level to politics to another was, a politician that passed away this year, Paul Sarbanes.
Yes.
And, I think he's most recently known for the Sarbanes-Oxley Act and his work and helping to regulate, investing and auditing. Yeah. And still has such a impactful legacy now. And just thinking, though, of those who influence, I think, my early childhood and, I think growing up in terms of just local leaders.
Yeah, one interesting thing about Paul Sarbanes' life is after my parents were married, the first place that they moved to was Salisbury, Maryland, back in the 70s. And Paul Sarbanes was born in Salisbury, Maryland.
Right.
And so, from these small, quote unquote, humble beginnings, I think the only other thing that most people know from Salisbury is Purdue.
Okay.
And the Purdue farm and the Purdue factories that are there. But hey, great people come out of all sorts of places. And so we salute and honor former United States Representative and former United States Senator Paul Sarbanes. After we got married and we moved to New Jersey, I remember one of the times we went to New York City and we were out kind of just taking everything in for the first time, and we were looking for some place to eat. And one of the places that we went to was a restaurant. And you remember where it was?
Yeah.
It was B. Smith's restaurant. And we honor and salute B. Smith, who we lost in 2020, for being a person who kind of was able to have her hand in so many things in so many areas.
Absolutely. I think, she was an early model, Ebony Fashion, and then Wilhelmina, which was, the preeminent modeling agency, and you didn't find many Black women modeling in that agency in that time. So that was trailblazing. And then she really kind of took her career to home and restaurant decor, and she kind of expanded it almost in a Martha Stewart-esque way, where it was
absolutely,
not just cooking and recipes, but books on that line, but then actually opening the restaurants. And then it was kind of the whole styling and setting the, the ambiance. And so, it was just kind of like a full circle, not just having the meal, but like, staging, meals. And I think to do it in a way where it invites people and opens up for entertainment. And I thought it was just, a great way of, giving options, I thought, that often even reflected her culture and her experience, and making that something that was much more commonplace, and taking it, back to New York and to like the Harlem area and, places where it gave options for people of color, for, Blacks and the Black community. So definitely nod and salute to B. Smith.
To B. Smith. Another pioneer that we lost in 2020 was in the person of Bishop Barbara Harris, who was the first female Episcopal ordained bishop. And so we want to salute and honor her. Speaking of other trailblazers, especially who came and we lost, I should say, in the year 2020. Another person was anybody who knows me knows I love football.
Right.
And so one of the things I enjoyed on Sunday mornings during football season growing up was looking at the NFL Today on CBS with Brent and Irv and all the guys that were there, Jimmy the Greek and everything. And one pioneer who started and broke in on the NFL Today we lost this year in the person of Phyllis George.
Yes.
So I remember watching Phyllis, seeing her on there, interviewing the guys after the game's kind of a trailblazer for what we see now with the sideline reporters.
Right. Absolutely. She definitely paved the way for that. And I thought just really gave credibility, really, just very nimble with the facts and with, the players. And she just really, I think, opened up the viability of, a woman kind of sitting at the desk and discussing a sport that necessarily may have not experienced or played, but very, agile with the game itself.
Yeah.
And so definitely want to just pay tribute to her trailblazing and door opening in that area.
Yes. Another trailblazer. You may not have heard this name before, but someone that we do want to honor because those who kind of make a way, everybody has some barriers sometimes to overcome, especially those who break ceilings and everything. I think I heard somebody say, like your head is always hurt when you're breaking the ceiling. And so no matter who they are, they do great work and have to face sometimes some things that aren't spoken of or talked about. But the person we want to talk about right now, who we lost in 2020 that you may not have heard of, is a person by the name of Drew Days III. Drew Days III. And his distinction is that he was the first Black Solicitor General. And that's the person who argues cases before the Supreme Court on behalf of the United States.
Right. Absolutely. Thurgood Marshall later would be solicitor, but he was the first. And so when we think of ceilings broken and glass ceilings in the Supreme Court, we lost the great.
Yes, an absolute great in the person of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes. I think back to her as a law student at Harvard and then later Columbia. She was the first woman to be on the law review of both of those notable boards, and then went on to be the director of ACLU Women's Rights Project. Wow. And that's where I really see the development really that she created of a strategy for challenging sex discrimination, as it was called at the time. And she says that it was a individual working in the office who said, the sex is distracting, using sex discrimination. And so she really started to engender or push gender discrimination. Wow. So we start to see it referred to as gender discrimination. And so for 1973 and 1976, she argued 6 cases before the Supreme Court, won 5 of them. And each one kind of built on the other. And similar to the strategy that we see in Dismantling Jim Crow by Charles Hamilton Houston, she picked plaintiffs and used cases that would help to illustrate how gender discrimination affects everyone, men and women. Wow. And so some of her plaintiffs actually included men because it showed how gender discrimination affects the workplace. Wow. And her dissent, eventually so her road to the Supreme Court, I should say, was just really a uncharted path because she again was, blazing a trail, but also just not necessarily that traditional legal path that you hear of people who leave law school, become a clerk, go to a firm, and then, are later picked for the Supreme Court. And because there are often many of those kind of cookie cutter, in essence, paths weren't available to her. And along that way, she was a wife and a mother. I think, often we're looking at women who, quote unquote, have it all. Yeah. And she was someone who balanced so many things all along the way, of family and career, of, a working wife, a working mother, all throughout. And it's just impressive. I mean, we could, probably have a whole episode on just, the impact that she had.
Yeah. And what I really like about what you're saying is what you're saying about her life are things that can be politicized but aren't political.
Yeah.
There are people on either side of the political spectrum who are married, who have families, who are trying to accomplish things in their career. And so many times there are many factors that help us to relate with each other more than divide us. We have our opinions on how we feel and think about things or issues, but really the common structure of what we're all trying to achieve as far as balance, wholeness, and health, even though we may go at it from different angles and different paths, we're all really trying to accomplish the same thing.
And that's something that she seemed to get. I mean, they say that one of her really closest friend on the court was Justice Scalia.
Justice Scalia, yes.
So I think that goes to really highlight your point and to look at the fact that she was the first Jewish on the court, the second woman after Sandra Day O'Connor, and that her dissent in the Ledbetter case really led to the Fair Pay Act that President Obama later signed in 2009. And so her dissents often, were seen to be really influential and impactful, even when she was not in the majority.
And her dissent on the voting rights case was another major dissent as well. Well, we are grateful to all of these change makers and so many more, and just want to let you know that you are a change maker. You can be a change maker right where you are each and every day. If no one is filming you, if no one is taping you, if no one is talking about you on a podcast, you can still make a difference for someone that can really last throughout their lifetime and even beyond.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you will share and subscribe. Until the next time, take care. We are so glad to share our podcast with you. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and on social media.
So please listen, share, and tell a friend about All Roads Lead To with Al and Jayné, the place where we talk about the people, the places, and the passions that have impacted us along the road of life.